And you remember those little quarter football helmets you used to get in the gumball machines? I think it started with something as simple as that, and I loved taking that extra quarter and getting a football helmet and trying to get the whole set of teams, and ice cream helmets when you go to the game with baseball games, same kind of thing. I guess it's a way to be a part of the game for someone who never really got to be in the game. That started when I was a kid, 6 or 7 years old. My uncle actually got me into the Bruins back in the 70s. I'd stay a lot with him. When my mom was working or something, we'd stay a lot with my uncle. He was a big sports fan. Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, all the teams. And back then, back the days of 4 channels on the TV, and the Bruins and the Red Sox were on Channel 38. So when we'd go up to stay with my Uncle Sid, we'd watch the games on Channel 38, and he got me hooked. And from then on, I was a Boston sports fan for life. Growing up in the 70s and the 80s, we took our success where we could get it, because the Red Sox always had the story of the curse, and they were the, not the lovable losers, but they were always the team that would come so close and break your heart. But still, they were a lot of fun to watch. You had the Celtics. Their best days were behind them, their glory days of the 60s. I kind of caught the tail end of that in the mid-70s. They won a couple of championships. But then in the 80s, the big three came. Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale came, and they were the team for that time. And they won 3 championships. And the Bruins were there. They always did well, but they always fell just short of the Canadiens. The Canadiens were always just that little bit better than them. And they made a few cup runs, but could never get it. I was a little bit after the big bad Bruins era, so I didn't get to see them. And the Patriots were just, the losers, the lovable losers back then. But then, around 2000, it all started to change. I mean, the Patriots won that Super Bowl in 2001, and just it took off from there. And every team started winning and competing. And so everybody loved the teams back earlier, but it became different. Now we got to enjoy success, and it was just a totally different feeling around here. And we keep waiting for it to stop. I mean, realistic fans keep waiting for it to stop, and it hasn't. But someday the shoe is going to drop, but I don't think the passion for the teams will go away. These pucks behind me, these are autographed pucks. All players who have played at least one game with the Boston Bruins from their beginnings in the 20s to, I don't have any that old from the 20s, but to today. So there are 576 different autographed pucks. I think that's the number right now, and it's always growing. It's funny, when I started this puck wall, it was probably this high, and now you see I'm having a problem. I'm kind of running out of room. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have, but I don't know what I'm going to have to do next. I'm going to have to make a few alterations here to fit the next generation of pucks on here. I remember getting Bobby Orr's was one that just, I've not been starstruck very often, but the first time I met Bobby Orr, I gotta say I was starstruck, because he was the man, he was a legend growing up. So to get to meet him, and he was just the nicest guy. And I've heard a lot of stories about Bobby Orr, and I've never heard anybody say a negative word about him, and he'll give you the time. And he was, at the time I got his autograph, he was a tough autograph to get, because his opinion has always been that I don't want to sign an autograph for you and then have you go sell it and make $200 off of my signature. So back then he didn't sign very often, but I went to a Bruins carnival. They used to have an event every year where all the players would sign autographs. and he was there, and he's got the famous picture of him diving through the air after the goal in 1970, and he was signing those. And I asked him, Mr. Orr, would you mind signing a puck for me? And he kind of looked at me, sizing me up. Are you one of those guys, those eBay guys, But he did, and he personalized it. And he said, well, who would you like me to sign it to? Because I don't sign autographs unless I personalize it. So you can write whatever you want on it. So he signed it, and it's up there on the wall with all the other ones. So that might be one of the toughest ones. Ray Bourque, I would have to say, might be the guy who got me into the heavy-duty collecting, because I did some collecting when I was a kid. Like I said, the simple stuff. And when I started having a family, I wanted to, start doing that. We were all big hockey fans. Me and all my friends, we played hockey. We watched the Bruins religiously. And Ray Bourque came to town and was doing an autograph signing, him and Rick Middleton. And so we went to the signing and got to talk to them. And they both couldn't have been nicer. And they spent time and talked to everybody who showed up. And I think that's what hooked me. They were so nice and personable. And from there, all right, let's get the next guy who comes, the next guy. And then we went to that Bruins Carnival I was telling you about and picked up, everybody on the team. It's like, oh, I love this. And I was hooked. And that's where it started. And it hasn't slowed down since. Right up here, we got all Bruins who in the Hall of Fame now. So yeah, Ray Bourque is right there, right next to Bobby Orr. Harry Sinden used to say, if I was down a goal late in the game, I'd want Bobby Orr on the ice. If I was ahead a goal, I want Ray Bourque on the ice. Another favorite, when he came in, he came in, again, not much was expected of him. They thought he had potential. And they traded Barry Peterson, who was a solid player, 30-goal-a-year guy. Traded Barry Peterson, got Cam Neely. Neely came in and just instantly was a hit. He just fit in, him and Adam Oates on a line, and he was scoring 40 goals a season and taking the town by storm. And he would fight, he would be physical, he could score goals. He was, again, a Boston player. He fit the mold. A good thing about living where I live is I'm close to Providence. So I catch a lot of these guys on the way up. So when they're playing in Providence, we'll get an autographed puck, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but then they make it to Providence and say, hey, remember when we got that? That was way back in the day. I think right away of Brad Marchand. When he started in Providence, he was not a big prospect. He was not seen as a guy who was going to amount to much. And I remember sitting down with him at one of the Bruins events, through Booster Club. They have events, you get to meet the players, you get to know them a little bit when they're younger. And I remember sitting with him, and he signed a couple things, and we got to talking, and I said, well, this is great. This will be, the big thing someday. And he says, well, yeah, if I can ever make it. So just, the humbleness, and that's something that hockey players have, and the humble and the work it takes and the amount of time. And everybody there is a great athlete, but not everybody can make that next step. Like Brad Marchand, from a fourth liner in Providence, made himself to one of the top goal scorers in the league now. My best stories from Providence are from 1999 when they won the Calder Cup, because that was a tough year for me. I mean, I got divorced early in '99, so really jumped into the Bruins with both feet. And they had a really strong team that year, and we got to know some of the guys. So being single and not having to go home right after the game, got to go out to the local restaurants after the games and stuff, and ended up getting to know some of the guys through hanging out with them. So when they won the Calder Cup, they closed the restaurant that we always went to, but they said this guy could stay. They selected people who they knew who could stay, so we got to celebrate with the team afterwards and drink out of the Calder Cup, and that was fun. And then they had a parade in downtown Providence, and I remember standing on the side of the road, and some of the guys saw me, me and my friend Ben, and they called us over, guys, come on in, and they wanted us to come into the car with them, be part of the parade. I declined that one because, no, you guys won the cup. I had nothing to do with it. You guys go enjoy it. I'd say one of the strangest ones, a good friend of mine who does a lot of collecting himself, he works for a high school. His father-in-law was the athletic director at a local high school, and they do bingos there. It's a Catholic high school, so they do bingo nights to raise money. And I got a call from him one night. He says, Paul, you have any Canadiens pucks? I was like, I'm sure I do. He says, grab two and come over here right now. I said, why? He said, Bobby Sheehan is the gaming commissioner, and he's here inspecting our bingo parlor tonight. So I rushed over with two Canadian pucks, and he was thrilled to sign them, and he sat there and told stories for us. So A lot of fun stories like that. He played in the 70s, so he was part of those teams that would always beat the Bruins in the finals. But it was still great to hear those old stories. I'd say with the Bruins, more than the other 4 teams, our guys, after they're done playing, stay here. And you see them in the community, and you see them continue to live here and raise their families. A guy like Ray Bourque, a Hall of Famer, and one of the best players ever, my favorite player ever. And he's always said, Boston's my home. I mean, we were so starved for championships is that when he got traded to Colorado and won the Cup for the Avalanche, we held a big rally at City Hall for Ray Bourque, and thousands of people turned out. I know I was there. It's that connection. I mean, I'm never gonna step on the Garden ice and skate or, get to score a goal or anything. But, I've had every one of these pucks, every one of these pictures is a story where I got to sit down with somebody, sometimes for a long time, but sometimes for 30 seconds or something, and just have that quick connection.